When people today think about the origins of video games, their minds often leap straight to names like Nintendo, Atari, or perhaps to Silicon Valley's bustling hub of innovation. The assumption is almost automatic. Surely it must have been a major corporation or a wealthy entrepreneur who dreamed up the idea of bringing video games into the home. Yet, the true father of home gaming wasn't a billionaire CEO, nor a Silicon Valley prodigy with a team of engineers at his side. Instead, it was a quiet, determined television engineer, tinkering away in his own basement workshop. His name was Ralph Baer, and in 1966, through a combination of curiosity, persistence, and raw ingenuity, he created the very first video game console, a humble invention that would eventually reshape the world of entertainment forever. The humble beginnings. Ralph Baer was not born into the digital age. He grew up during a time when radios were still marvels of engineering, and television was just beginning to emerge as a household luxury. Born in Germany in 1922, Baer and his family fled Nazi persecution and immigrated to the United States in the late 1930s. This difficult start to life would shape his character, instilling in him both resilience and a relentless drive to make something of himself. By the 1940s, Baer was serving in the U.S. Army during World War II, where his skills in electronics quickly became apparent. After the war, he pursued formal education in television engineering, a field that was then in its infancy. Baer found steady work in the booming television industry of the 1950s and 1960s. At that time, televisions were becoming central to American life. Families would gather around the screen to watch news broadcasts, sitcoms, and variety shows. Yet for Baer, there was always a nagging thought in the back of his mind. Why should television be a one-way medium? Why couldn't the viewer do something, play with it, interact with it, rather than just passively watch? The basement breakthrough. In 1966, Baer began turning this question into reality. His day job involved designing more efficient televisions, but his passion project unfolded at home, often after hours, in the basement of his New Hampshire house. There, he began experimenting with ways to make a television do something entirely new, create a device that would allow people to play games directly on their TV screens. Keep in mind, this was long before microprocessors or personal computers. Everything had to be built with analog circuits and simple logic components. It was a daunting challenge, but Baer was undeterred. Using a breadboard, resistors, and wires, he began to prototype the world's first video game system. His early experiments produced crude, blocky visuals, nothing like the polished graphics we take for granted today. Still, the concept was revolutionary. For the first time, a player could manipulate what appeared on a TV screen in real time. In Baer's mind, this was no mere toy. It was a brand new form of entertainment, from skepticism to reality. Convincing others, however, was not easy. When Baer approached executives with his idea, many dismissed it as frivolous. Television, they argued, was for watching programs, not for games. Yet Baer's determination kept the project alive. Working with a small team at Sanders Associates, the defense contractor where he was employed, he refined his prototype. Together they built what came to be known as the Brown Box, a clunky device covered in wood-grain vinyl that allowed users to play a variety of simple games, table tennis, chase games, and even a primitive version of shooting sports with a light gun attachment. The Brown Box was no sleek consumer product, but it worked. It proved beyond any doubt that interactive television was possible. In 1971, Baer and his team licensed the technology to Magnavox, which rebranded it as the Magnavox Odyssey. Released in 1972, the Odyssey became the very first home video game console available to the public. The birth of a revolution. The Odyssey was modest compared to what would follow. Its games consisted of simple white squares and lines on a black screen. Players often used transparent plastic overlays placed directly on the TV screen to add graphics, such as a tennis court or a haunted house. Yet despite these limitations, the console captured imaginations. It demonstrated that television could be more than passive entertainment. It could be interactive. Though sales were limited at first, the Odyssey laid the groundwork for everything that followed. When Nolan Bushnell and Atari released Pong shortly afterward, the industry exploded into mainstream popularity. Bear's invention had opened the door, and there was no turning back. A legacy of innovation. Ralph Baer didn't stop with the Odyssey. Throughout his career, he continued to invent, patenting dozens of ideas related to interactive entertainment. He created early versions of memory games, light guns, and even contributed to toys like Simon, the electronic memory game that became a sensation in the late 1970s. What makes Baer's story remarkable is not only his technical brilliance but also the vision he had decades ahead of his time. In the mid-1960s, the notion that families would one day own powerful computers capable of running complex 3D games would have seemed like science fiction. Yet Baer saw the potential in the simplest form of interaction between a person and a television screen. Why Baer matters today. The modern video game industry generates hundreds of billions of dollars annually, rivaling Hollywood in cultural impact. Esports tournaments fill stadiums, while millions of people stream gameplay online. Entire virtual worlds, from Fortnite to Minecraft, occupy the imaginations of children and adults alike. None of this would have been possible without that first leap made in Baer's basement. Equally important is the reminder his story provides about innovation itself. Baer was not a wealthy founder with endless resources. He was an immigrant who built his career through persistence, education, and creativity. He did not rely on massive research labs or corporate giants to fund his dream. Instead, he followed his curiosity, experimented, failed, refined, and ultimately succeeded. His journey demonstrates that world-changing ideas can come from unlikely places, even a cluttered basement. A quiet hero. Ralph Baer didn't seek fame or fortune. He was driven by a pure love of discovery and a desire to share that joy with others. Yet despite his achievements, Baer never became a household name like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. For many years, his contributions went largely unrecognized by the public. But within the gaming community, he earned a place of honor. Later in life, he received awards and accolades, including the National Medal of Technology from President George W. Bush in 2006. He lived to see the gaming industry become the global powerhouse it is today, and he took pride in knowing that his invention had sparked it all. When Ralph Baer passed away in 2014 at the age of 92, tributes poured in from around the world. Developers, gamers, and industry leaders alike acknowledged him as the true father of home gaming. His story continues to inspire inventors and dreamers, proof that one individual's passion can ignite a cultural revolution. Conclusion. The tale of Ralph Baer is more than a piece of gaming trivia. It is a testament to the power of imagination and persistence. In 1966, while most people saw television as a passive box in the living room, Baer saw a canvas for interactivity. In his basement, with little more than his engineering know-how and an audacious vision, he created something entirely new: the video game console. Today, as we navigate vast virtual worlds, compete in online arenas, or simply relax with a favorite game, we owe a quiet nod to that engineer in New Hampshire. Ralph Baer may not have been a Silicon Valley titan, but his humble invention redefined entertainment for generations. And it all began with a man, a television, and a dream that would forever change how we play. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider supporting the channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you fascinating stories about the unsung heroes of history. Do you know anyone who might appreciate this video? Share it with them and let them discover the inspiring tale of Ralph Baer, the man who brought gaming into our homes.